on YouTube and sharing that stuff with you through stories and the Roar that comes out on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you're not familiar with that piece, man, it's a really, really neat and interesting piece where we can kind of go into a multitude of different topics with you. And it's one of the things, one of the reasons that we started it, to be honest with you. Back, I guess, last college football season, I was spending some time talking about the Ohio State Buckeyes with Dan Hope from 11 Warriors. And he and I were talking after he was on the show one day. And I was just like, man, Dan, with the website, trying to find some things that are really cool. What do you guys do? And he said, man, have you ever seen our Skull Session? And I was like, no, man, I haven't. What's that about? And so he kind of told me, and I was like, all right, well, let me check into it. And then I looked at it and I was like, oh, dude, this is nice. And so he was like, well, you should run with one. So we came up with it. And, it's sort of your shot in the morning to kind of get your day going with a quick hitter of everything going on in Tiger Town. So as you can see here, the front page, if you're watching the show of ClemsonSportsTalk.com, several stories up. Anytime you've got the play button, that means there's audio or video involved in it. We got several of those on the docket. But then, man, you go into the Roar, and this story comes out again twice a week. Our buddy Scott Sasser writing that for us. But he'll go in and clip some awesome GIFs, but more importantly, he'll take times and quotes and moments from the show and share those with everybody else checking out the program. So really cool. That may be one of my favorite graphics we've done so far for these, the Go Back to Michelin, the adversity that Clemson has faced this past week, and what fans have said and the comments on message boards about this team. It's amazing. It takes a lot not to just say, hey, maybe you're a little bit spoiled as a fan. And that might not be something you want to hear. That's not something you want to hear about your children. It's not something you want to hear about yourself. But maybe you're just a little bit spoiled at this point that losing the way Clemson did to Georgia feels like doom and gloom and the end of the world. Like somebody had to win that game. Somebody had to lose that game. And as Kirk Herbstreit said in preparation for it, he said, look, this is jumping into the deep end of the pool. And much like George Carlin would tell you, when you step into a rest area bathroom and you got those fluorescent lights, buddy, you're going to see every bump, bruise, boil, wart, pimple, zit, whatever you got. And guess what? We saw a lot of those things this weekend because you were going up against one of the top teams in the country, the current number 2 ranked Georgia Bulldogs. And if at the end of the calendar year, the loss on your resume is a loss to the number 2, possibly number 1 ranked team in the country, and you did not give up an offensive touchdown, if that's the loss you have, and you run out the table the rest of the way, win the ACC championship, I mean, the odds that you are in the playoff are good. So just relax and enjoy the season. How can you enjoy the season? James went to Clemson in the 1970s. It says, man, I never dreamed we would ever win a natty. James got 3. And has a team in 2021 that might be good enough to win another one. Listen, I'm with you, man. Tony's in the penalty box, so he hit subscribe. Tony, what are you doing? He hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. Tony, next thing you know, I'm going to have new equipment. This is going to be extremely high definition, and you're going to have to see every pimple, boil, wart, zit, whatever on my face. I mean, at least right now I'm tuning it down to 480p for you. What are you going to do with it sharp as a tack, Tony? It's going to be people like you who push me to that. Going to be people like you. Thank you, Tony, man. Appreciate you, buddy. He says, man, what's the deal with Lynn J. Dixon? I missed on why he was suspended. I believe Lynn J. Could have been the difference. I haven't heard anything outside of violation of team rules. And let me tell you what that could mean for Dabo Swanny, being late for a meeting. Like, that is the other crux of the matter that some people want to talk about with this Clemson team after you see Lynn J. and the way the offense felt with Lynn J. Dixon in the ball game versus the way the offense felt earlier, the spark that he brought to the table. Some people would say, dude, you can't have discipline like that in your program. Like, how you get, like, and again, it could be anything. But Dabo Swanny has standards. He doesn't care if you're a walk-on or the 5-star stud. You have to treat everybody the same in an organization in order for there to be continuity across the board, in order to keep jealousy down, in order to keep order. That's just part of what you have to have in place. And I'll be honest, I thought, Lynn J. last year was nursing an injury, had been banged up. And, fall camp, as much as it is grueling or whatever, players, and the reason I throw that whatever on is because, I said last week that when you get into that first week of the season, the hits are different. Like, your opponent hits you different than your teammates at practice during fall camp. But as grueling as it is or whatever, you can still sustain injuries and be banged up. I mean, you look no further than Nolan Turner. The guy that's banged up. They're hoping to get him back. And so with that out there, in the conversation, I thought, seeing him on the side, like, first off, you wonder, okay, is he with the team? Because we had heard probably 15 minutes before kickoff, was talking in the press box with some guys, and one fella says, man, I heard Lynn J. might be suspended. And so your initial reaction is, well, let's see if we can see him on the field. And there he is. And he's got his helmet. I don't think his helmet was on, but he has his helmet in his hand. And so you go, okay, well, maybe he's injured, but at least he's got a helmet. Like, that's a signal that he might be playing. And then eventually he's in the ball game at the end, and Swanny comes out afterwards and talks about how, violation of team rules. And so to know it wasn't an injury, I think, is a positive. You certainly don't want a guy, though, with his experience having violation of team rules, because it was clear when he came in the game. One of the things that I would venture to guess that Kobe Pace and Will Shipley and Phil Maffa and some of the other running backs aren't as familiar with are some of the pass protection schemes. And I don't think I would be the first person to run Lynn J. Dixon out as my big pass protection back. But if you told me that I get a guy that might be more familiar with some checks and changes at the line of scrimmage to know to slide over and pick up a linebacker blitzing through versus a guy that might not get that call and is looking to his left while trouble's on the backside, I'll take the guy that knows the calls. If you follow me. 803-450-0086. 803-450-0086. Preston's back in the house. Preston, how'd the cross-country meet go, man? Preston was at a cross-country meet, I think, yesterday or the day before. Dude, let me tell you. No offense, Preston. I hated running cross country. I only ran cross country to not have to do preseason conditioning for basketball. He says, go Tigers, go DJ and the team, all in and behind them all. So was it cross country or track? Preston says we ran in circles. Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, I remember running at the state meet, and I think I finished like 54th, maybe 56th. But I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good because I wasn't like a competitive runner. The problem was for me with cross country. This might speak to somewhat of my athleticism and my laziness all in one, if that's possible. But in my little hometown, we would run back then. You could run off campus. I don't know if you can do that anymore for practice, but back then we could. I mean, small town USA. And so we would run from the high school. I really need to map this out. I have no idea how far this was. And we run all the way to town, like downtown. And in Barnwell, there's a circle, not a square. There's a circle. You can't have the festival on the round on the square. You have to have the festival on the round on the circle. So you go to the circle in Barnwell, and you run back around there, and then go back up the back way to the high school. Now, back then, there was a place called Burley's Pharmacy right on the circle. And I would run, the cross-country route, go into Burley's, get like a chewing gum and a cherry Coke. And it was the old school cherry Coke, right? Like you get the Coke and they scoop the syrup in, got the crushed ice like that you get at Zaxby's. Classic. I'd enjoy a quick cherry Coke, get a piece of gum. In old school USA, I'd say put it on my dad's tab, and they'd, charge him probably back then it was probably 75 cents or whatever. I'd finish my soda, get me a new fresh piece of gum, and out the door I go. There I went, running back to the school to finish up my cross country practice. So, and the coach was never like, man, Swanny, your pace was off today. I was still pretty good, kept up with the team. But the problem for me was Jason Wills. And I don't know where Jason's living. I don't know what he's up to these days. I think I am Facebook friends with him. But he ended up winning the state in the mile my senior year. And all I remember about cross-country practice was what the soles of his shoes looked like, because we called him Robo Runner for a reason. I could never beat that guy. Never. Now, some of you say, well, if you hadn't stopped and got a Coca-Cola at Burley's, Swanny, maybe. No. By the time I was stopping at Burley's to get the Coca-Cola, believe me, Robo Runner Jason Wills was probably getting back up to the high school. I mean, that dude could pick him up and put him down for long distances. It was not fun. Preston says we run to and from Dunkin' Donuts. Now that's my kind of cross country team. When's our meet, coach? Holler at me. You see a bald guy running up the road with a Dunkin' Donuts coffee in one hand and a donut in the other. That's me. Y'all honk the horn. I'm a new member of the the Dutch Fork cross country team. Is that where we are, Preston? That's me. Swanny picking them up, putting them down. Man, I heard you guys got a 44-year-old star. Oh, he's elite. You ought to see the way he can pound that coffee and donut and still finish the race. Yeah, they've got apps now where, if you do this running stuff, you can run from zombies and all kind of stuff. I don't know, man. At least the Peloton has not become a place for my family to hang their clothes. That's a workout, boy. Whew. My gravy. James says Swanny, Lynn J had 1 carry for 10 yards. I know, man, it was an explosive carry. It was a carry to the outside. It was something that we didn't see the whole game. Like Georgia, at one point in that game, when they realized, and this is something that does bother me about Tony Elliott at this point, I don't think he needs to go to Michelin. And if Tony was smart when he said that quote that people were telling him he needs to go back to Michelin, the response in that moment, Tony, if you really want to get a laugh, is go, you guys want me making your tires? Is that what you're telling me? You don't even think I'm capable of running this offense, but you want me making tires. Okay. Sounds safe. But the one thing I will say about Tony Elliott and this Clemson running game is, Georgia ran some really wide sweeps to the outside, some toss sweeps to the edge, really pushed the edge. Forget about trying to run the ball in between the tackles, but really getting wide. And Clemson didn't really do that. And so that, I think, if you want to say, Swanny, here's my big criticism, a power toss, something that we don't see all that often, but something to keep the ball on the ground. And then, look, the ultimate frustration, if you're going to talk about the offensive line and the decisions in the running game, was the first and goal at the 5. The first and goal at the 5. And I don't want DJ to get hurt. But you know what? When Taj Boyd was the quarterback, you were willing to run him, and the backup's what? Nick Schusler, Cole Stout, maybe at one point. I mean, you have to be willing to run your 6'5", 250-pound quarterback at the 5-yard line. And let me tell you, if you run him there and you get 3 and you get a touchdown and you win that game, you're in a different position than you're in now because you still very much control your destination. That's the one thing Clemson really doesn't, even though Dabo Swinney says they do. And I feel like if they win out, they got a great chance to be in, certainly. But you did lose a little something, because I know if you're undefeated, you're in. I know if you're undefeated, you're in. The thing you lost is my absolute certainty that you're in. I think you got a great chance. I thought the polls yesterday proved it. I think the way Clemson will continue to play will prove it. I think the fact that nobody outside of Alabama seemed absolutely elite. Now, if you want to argue Clemson and Georgia in that category, I'll listen. Yeah, if they're not playing each other, they probably both look pretty elite. But that's the thing you lost, is the certainty.